Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? Russian war games now in the Mediterranean. But really, is it war games or are the Russians focusing on Syria? Well, a report just 4 hours old, just coming out. Russia says it will hold war games in the Mediterranean Sea this week. NATO says that the Russian Navy is building up its presence in the Mediterranean Sea amid growing tensions over the war in Syria. Matter of fact, Russia has provided crucial military support for the Syrian government forces, which are expected to mount an offensive in the northern provinces of Syria, and the last major rebel stronghold in the country. Quote, "We will not speculate on the intention of the Russian fleet, but it is important that all actors in the region exercise restraint and refrain from worsening an already disastrous humanitarian situation in Syria." NATO's chief spokeswoman said this yesterday. She says several of the Russian ships are equipped with cruise missiles. Now, at least 8 ships, including a missile cruiser, 2 missile-carrying submarines, have joined the Russian flotilla over the past 3 weeks. And on Thursday, today, the Russian Ministry of Defense upped the ante, folks, with state-run television news agency TASS said that the ministry had announced that its forces would carry out a military exercise in the Mediterranean involving 25 naval vessels and 30 warplanes on September the 1st. Moscow has repeatedly alleged that the Syrian rebels are preparing a chemical weapons attack. They're in the northern provinces of Syria to bring a Western attack on the Syrian forces. Now, the newspapers say the naval buildup was connected to that prospect and possibility. The United States and its allied forces have forced Russia to send a powerful sailing group to the Mediterranean. That's what the Russians were saying on Tuesday. State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert called the Russian reports false flag type reporting. Now, we've seen this before, where they try to put the blame and the onus on the other groups. We don't buy that, she said during a regular briefing yesterday with reporters in Washington, D.C. Western countries and independent analysts say that the Syrian government forces have carried out a number of chemical attacks over the course of the 7-year civil war, and they're doing them as false flag. The U.S. has vowed to respond if Syrian forces use chemical weapons and the Western countries carry out strikes on Syrian government forces after the alleged chemical attack earlier this year. Both Syria and Russia deny the government forces ever used any chemical weapons, and they deny they did false flag attacks. So it's tensions build in the Mediterranean. Russia, the United States, Syria, and everybody else continues as this ugly Arab Spring of democracy. That's what President Obama called it, the Arab Spring of democracy. And Hillary loved it. 7 years later, there's been so much death. Don't miss today's live broadcast. Josh Peck will be my guest. He has a show on the History Channel. He's also on Skywatch TV. Josh Peck is going to be my guest. We're going to be discussing CERN. CERN. Should we be concerned about CERN? And what is the Atlas program that CERN is getting ready to implement? What is that? How dangerous is this world getting? Are you serious?